Our last poem is Remembrance of Collins by William Wordsworth. The setting of the poem, it says, composed upon the Thames near Richmond. The Thames is a river that runs through London, and Richmond is a borough in London. So basically, the whole poem is about this river and how it flows and how it glides. And in the river, you could see the image of a poet's heart. That's actually a line in the poem where it's the meaning basically that the river's just like serene and flowing and gliding, meaning that a poet is just always like thinking, always seeing all these images in their head, like to be able to put all these words on paper as a poet would do.
Yeah, and he he's saying the river like is an image of a poet's heart. You think that he is calm, like he is the poet, so he's saying that it's an image of his heart, and it's a very calm river. He talks about how he wants it to be quiet and just glide, but then he also says, such as did once the poet bless, who murmuring here a later ditty could find no refuge from distress, but in the milder grief of pity. So he was once distressed, but now he is calm. Or
he's calm like the river. The river's
yes.
just gliding.
Or he could be talking about his friend Collins, who is anonymous. There's not really much on
There's
who
no
he
reference.
There's no reference as to who he is.
It's in the third stanza. There is a reference. He doesn't say that he's gliding on the river with anybody, but in the third stanza he says, "Now let us, as we float along, as let us," and then in the next line he says, "For him suspend the dashing oar." The oar being the paddle they use to propel themselves. So when he suspends the oar, meaning they're just like floating along the river.
Yeah, it's very chill. It's very take your time through life. Don't stress. So when he says for him suspend the dashing oar, you think him might be Collins, and so for Collins' sake, he doesn't need to rush through things and be sad and just try to get through life. He needs to enjoy himself, even though Collins is already gone and he has to live without him.
Another thing saying, how calm, how still, the only sound, the dripping of the oar suspended, meaning the only noise that he hears is Collins' oar suspended in the air and the dripping of water coming down from the oar. He says the evening darkness gathers round by virtue's holiest powers attended, meaning the evening darkness, like it's getting dark, and he knows that this is like the end of Collins, like going through the river. It's all flowing, and it's like another reference to the second stanza after he says a poet's heart, like you could see in the river. It says how bright, how solemn, how serene.
Yeah, and you could also say the darkness gathering around him. It could also be death. You could say that the river is his life, and he says, for him, suspend the dashing oar. For Collins, don't rush through life. Like, if you're moving the oar, then you're moving faster downstream. So Collins would want him to take life slow, not, live through life, not try to rush to death. Maybe he's talking about Collins not wanting Wordsworth to be like suicidal, wanting him to continue on and be happy.
Yeah, because
him.
He says, and pray that never child of song may know that poets sorrows more. Many poets, like in themselves, like they feel so much pain because usually all their poetry is like all sad, but they don't show it because they can't. Like they can't allow themselves to be able to show it because it says after that it's almost like a tone shift. He says again in exclamation points, how calm, how still.
Yep. And that is Remembrance of Collins by William Wordsworth.